strategies and some of the things they've been trying to do, we'll discover that looking at it from the forex aspect, there have been some adjustment there. The naira have been steady for quite some time. But let's have your review of all that he has said. What do you have? What are your takes?
As the CBN, all that they have done is the normal thing economics will recommend to address the situation that we have in the country. That's in theory. But the reality is just where the dynamics is a bit different, because it's targeted at bringing down the aggregate demand, which has gone up. And the aggregate demand was said to have gone up because of too much money outside the banking vaults in the hands of individuals. And to now do that, you are definitely going to embark on what we call a contractionary monetary policy to contract the microeconomic indices to make sure that you compress things. That is what they have done by raising the NPR, as well as, of course, the CRR2. Now, the issue is this. In Nigeria, the aggregate demand, or less, before we even pin it down to Nigeria, if aggregate demand rises, there's two possibilities could lead to that. First case is either few people having enormous liquidity to buy in bulk. You understand? That bulk buy will raise the aggregate demand. Or second case, there's much money in circulation that many individuals can buy in smaller units at the same time, and that will also raise the aggregate demand. Aggregate is aggregate. It's a summation of the total demand pattern. Now, in the case of Nigeria, or let me say, when you have the aggregate demand going up, the rest will lead to inflation. And the response to inflation is for the CBN, or the Monetary Policy Agency, which the CBN represents, is to contract things. But in the case of Nigeria, that aggregate demand was due to not many people buying, but few people buying in bulk. You understand? Government contractors, government itself, and some other big people to stockpile. Maybe especially when the government introduces palliative measures. And some of us criticize it that this is a wrong move. It's going to affect the rest of us, because it's the same market. There's no separate market for where you get those palliative from.
Bulk buying.
So that's the thing. And by the time they launch into the market, or even the announcement alone, had already positioned, prepared the mind of the sellers. Yes, bulk money is coming, and they began to tune the price up. Even now, even those who are having fewer stock quickly went to buy more stock, also buying in bulk. And now, few people have bought in bulk, stockpiled, and the rest of us are not having the capacity because our purchasing power had gone down. And that's when you apply that. They didn't mention anything about the purchasing power parity. It has reduced. That's the truth. And they were deliberately silent on it, because that will expose all these things that we just mentioned. You understand? Because when you look at that, a good number of Nigerians are fixed income earners, either from the government side or from the private sector. Now, fixed income earners are usually the most hit when there is inflation. But before we go further, we need to even look at what is causing the inflation itself. Some factors are also responsible. The CBN governor mentioned some that has to do with the global trend. There's a general rising out there in the global community, and that is also affecting us because we are not a producing nation.
Import based.
We are economy is largely import based. We import virtually everything we consume, including the basics which we are not supposed to be importing, petroleum products. Now that's the prices out there has gone up due to some other activities globally, and we are importing something that is already changing price into the country. Now, when it gets to the port of entry, the government will add its own. They have been raising tariff of recent in the name of blue economy and wanting to raise the government revenue to curb borrowing. You understand? That is public finance trying to adjust it because it was in a mess before they came up. So in an effort to adjust the whole thing and reset it, they are also doing what? Raising tariff on importation. Now, when you raise tariff is usually raised on imported goods to protect the
locally produced
goods. But where are those locally produced goods? And even the so-called locally produced goods, what is the percentage of local inclusion in those products? We still import virtually all the raw materials used. Is it the car vehicles that you want to talk about? We have more of car assemblage here, not car manufacturing, so to speak, because we do not have a viable steel industry. And of course, our energy industry is also struggling. And those are the two things that will power industrialization. So an industrialization is when we can begin to say we are producing up to like 70% local inclusion in the value of the product we are pushing out. Now, without that, our balance of trade would not be favorable, and that is why our FX is struggling. Now, because of that FX, that's another factor causing the inflation here. When you combine all these things together, you have a situation where prices of goods are high, and of course, what is it called now? The government would want to make the kind of measures that they have taken now. Fine, it's acceptable February, but March, I wasn't expecting the NPR to be raised again by 2%. I expected a situation where, like they have done to the CRR and the other variables,
to
retain it because you raised it by 4% in February from 18.75 to 22.75. Now you've added 2% to it. I mean, within the space of 2 months, you have raised it by 6%. And that will have its own corresponding effect on, you are trying to discourage borrowing, but at what rate are people borrowing? Government is borrowing at the state level, at the federal level. The only government that tier of government that is not borrowing is local government because they practically do not exist as we speak. You understand? But the private sector too, who are also relying on all this borrowing to access liquidity, you can't keep the interest rate at that. What we are announcing is interbank ratio. What would the microfinance give to the petty traders out there? Before the initial rate, it's already around 25 to 30%, depending on the duration that you want to use the money. Now it will push it to close to 50%. That is killing. So many industries will begin to suffer. Some may fold up in the process. Those are the effects of these things. And it would shrink the GDP. And that's why some people have said that, well, they are not seeing our GDP growing this year. But the CBN is saying there's an improvement. But that was last year. We are yet to see the first quarter 2024 figure. What you projected was fourth quarter 2023. And that was before you begin to raise the NPR. So we are yet to see the impact of the raising NPR on the GDP. You understand? And now, technically, probably they want to buy time to really look at things. They are not going to be having the MPC next month. They are pushing it this month. They put it to May. So that means they created a two. Yeah. It's deliberate. Don't be surprised at anything. These are smart guys. They know what they are doing. It's deliberate.
Because it's supposed to be a bi-monthly affair.
Exactly. It's deliberate.
So, especially those who are going through this cash scarcity, they are going to go through that in May. I know what people went through this weekend, and those who want to collect loan from the microfinance, the headache. So it's one would like, okay, fine, let's just endure. Maybe till on the 23rd or 24th of April, they will have a review, and they should be able to feel the impact and have some consideration.
Now, back to the main thing. The one that affects all of us is the food inflation. It's now at 37%, close to 38.
Almost 40.
Yeah, at 37%. That is killing. And that is where government has not been doing the right thing. Now, you have removed subsidy from somewhere. You are supposed to ensure a stable price of food by subsidizing it. Because when you look at the aggregate inflation, or what they call the headline inflation, globally is rising up. But food is being put to check in other countries. Just last night, I was chatting with a younger brother that resides in the UK, and he was telling me that rent, real estate, has gone up by 50% in the UK. But food has not risen by that margin at all. And the UK has not, because of that, pushed their own MPR to double digits. It's still a single digit. Now, when you look at all of that, and is it impossible for us as a nation to have a single digit interest rate? The answer is, it is not impossible. It depends on government. And when you have a capitalist system the way we run it, even the UK that we say is a Western world, even US that promotes capitalism, when it comes to benefits to their citizens, they know how they adjust it. But here we follow them hook, line, and sinker, and we just not consider our own peculiarities and factor that into it. We just decide based on theory and recommendation of the Bretton Woods Institute.
Don't you think this interest rate being raised by this bank is a means for them to create revenue for themselves through the back door, claiming is a way to deal with inflation?
You want to hear the truth. Interest rates is insignificant as far as the banks are concerned now. That is not what gives them their profits. What gives them their profits is the fintech, the technology that they have imputed, and some other charges which government is not checking. You understand? It's good to impose such tax, but you have to do it in a proportional way. For instance, I send 10,000 naira to you. Because it is 10,000, the moment the money enters your account,
15 naira is gone.
15 naira is gone out of it. If I send 1 million naira to the same account, it is that same 15 naira that they will charge. Can you see the aberration? And that's why the poor are getting poorer and the rich are just getting fatter and fatter every day.
And that 15 naira makes it no longer 10,000.
It's no longer 10,000. It becomes 9,000 naira and 15 naira. And that is not the only money that will be charged. At my own hand, I will also be charged electronic transfer levy money. At your own hand, you also be charged. So when you have that, meaning that 10,000 is 9,900, you now want to withdraw it.
Some banks will tell you minimum balance.
Exactly. Because now the average is 5,000 at the ATM for other banks, 10,000 for the bank that is the owner of the ATM.
They'll still charge you 37 naira.
And if you go...
Formerly 35 naira, now...
So when you look at all of these things, those are areas where the banking sector make money. You know, it's a service sector. They are not producing anything other than rendering services. Even
going back to the days of Emefiele, when we had this naira scarcity, the banks were able to realize that when the money is scarce, people will resort to electronic transaction. And if you have your 100,000 naira cash in your hands, you can do a lot of transactions without the banks benefiting. But since the money is being trapped in your account, you do a lot of transfers, which the electronic charges come into play.
Well, that of Emefiele was to promote cashless policy. But these ones are silence on the cashless, even though it's meant to promote it as well. Yes, cashless is a good thing, you understand, but it's more money for the banks. And if you are going to force us to do it, it should be on two conditions. One, the banks will have to upgrade their database
And
so
the
that
network.
yes, that's what I mean, their internet connectivity and database, so that if they are in gigabyte before, it should move to terabytes, so that there will not be fluctuation in the process. That is one. Secondly, you bring down the charges and make it proportional to the amount that is being transferred. You don't put everybody on the same pedestal when it comes to certain things, especially that stamp duty that goes to the government. It's not the bank that owns that. What belongs to them is the electronic transfer levy and the commission. The commission comes with VAT. VAT goes back to the government, but the commission belongs to the banks. So banks will be taking two separate commission, the transfer levy and the commission, while the government will be taking the stamp duty and the VAT.
A single transaction.
On a single. Now imagine a business account that has consistent inflow of money.
We've not even talked about SMS charges. You've not talked about card maintenance.
You understand? Now imagine a business account that has inflow of maybe an average of that 10,000 per transaction and runs into like 100 transactions in a day, like those malls, supermarket and pharmacies that runs allow for transfer and some big eateries. You understand? Imagine what will be charged on that company account, the corporate account they're going to be using in a single day. Multiply that in a month. That is what they rip off the sector, and the government will still be borrowing. They'll still be telling us there's no money. So these are issues that we're talking about. And because too much money is in the hands of governments, they launder it, spend it recklessly, allow individuals to have access to so much amount of money, and that's the source, the origin of the inflation that we are talking about. Not that Nigerians are, yes, we like to live large, but still within the limit of what the resources you have. You understand? But the thing is, they have to adjust certain things at their own level, because that's the way. You don't treat the effect, you treat the cause of the problem. Now, what the CBN has been doing is trying to treat the effect. They need to advise the government also to cut down expenses.
It was the same government who gave them the job, so it's like a child advising the father the way he should run his
sincerity
family.
of purpose and the political will to do the right thing are what matters here. If we are talking about the economy, you should know that government spending goes a long way in either making or marring the economy. And that's one thing that our government needs to realize. You don't push everything, every of your mess on the people to be clearing up. It's not encouraging.
We've heard the CBN governor speak about the monetary policy and also talk about the interest rate and that of the cash reserve ratio that was raised, and Nigerians have been having one or two issues as regards this particular review. And the Manufacturers Association, the industries, they've been complaining that this particular policy may lead to a lot of job loss, and it's as if the government is not really looking, the central bank is not looking at that direction. I listened to the interactive section, and somebody called the attention to the CBN governor that, look, this thing was done last year for a couple of times, and still the inflation you are trying to deal with keep on increasing, and you are still going with that same direction. And his response was that when you tighten the economy, it will get to a stage where the impact is going to be felt. Is it that they are looking at, okay, fine, if we do this for 18 months, that 18 months will be able to get us in the right direction? Or is it that we are seeing what they are not seeing, or they are seeing what we are not seeing?
They have a target, and I think the target is to mop up the excess liquidity outside of the banking sector. They would have created a time lag. Probably that's more reason why they push the next meeting by 2 months, so that they would know the extent of the achievements of the policy, or the level of benefit that they've been able to record. They know it must not extend for more than 6 months. It will begin to have a negative impact. and they are also aware of all this. Now, for the job loss, it's a two-way thing. It may not be as high as people think, because I traveled to Lagos yesterday, over the weekend, and I observed something along the Ogun State corridor. That, yes, we noticed that some multinationals, so to speak, are closing and more relocating, but some others are coming to spring up, and these are factories. What do they do in factories? They manufacture things. So, and most of them are under construction, but by the time they complete the factories, that will be job creation for some people. So I wouldn't know what the Ogun State governments have not been able to beam my searchlight into the economic policy of the state government. Or is it that because Lagos is choking up and the industries are moving to Ogun, where you have land available for them to set up?
No,
I've not really completed that investigation to know the factors responsible.
That should have even been an added advantage to Lagos, Ogun and Oyo State, because that's Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, and it's more of the like a corridor to other parts of the country.
Yeah,
and
Ogun State government must be doing something
to attract
them. Which maybe Oyo is not doing. And if you look at proximity to the main market, Lagos is the main market as far as the Nigerian commercial and economic sector is concerned. Oyo is a bit distant, but not too much. At least 127 kilometers is not too much. We have a rail way that connects the two directly. So it depends on what the government at this level is doing to really attract. You understand? And I'm not comfortable with their real estate policy. They're focusing
Oyo
on...
State is more of real estate.
Which is nonsense.
I did targeting the fact that...
You are not bringing factories.
You are bringing
our building houses, wasting our land. Because those houses will be built unoccupied. You just put security men there, and some of them will end up as kidnappers then. Because some people have too much money, they don't know what to do with it. You look at the situation. Is real estate really thriving? Can people actually afford the prices for those apartments that you are putting up? The answer is no. Because in here, so those are things that I said Ogun State must be doing something which I am yet to confirm. Probably someone like Private Shitu, when he calls in, can't give an answer to that, because he lives in Ogun State, and of course he follows the government activities at the state level. You understand? But that is a plus on the part of to attract investments. Even at the level of government, they may not be doing much of what we can see, but at least those ones are a sort of policies, and that is what government is meant to do. Put policies that will attract investment in place, and by the time the investment comes in, jobs creation becomes automatic. You understand? And in the end, it is win-win for the economy, because that is what the CBN wants. The dimension that the CBN wants the economy to be moving towards: job creation and, of course, increase in the level of GDP. That will, in a way, increase the purchasing power of people. But we need to really tackle this food inflation. In his remark, he said, well, they encourage the government to continue the agricultural policy. But that is the federal government. Agriculture is a concurrent affair.
It's not under the CBN.
You understand? It is a concurrent matter. The CBN, I expect them to have also made the governors realize that, come, you are not a member of the Economic Council for joke. You are a stakeholder as leaders of the component units to also to complement the effort of the federal government in the area of agriculture. We have states like Oyo that can feed Southwest, but nothing much is going on in terms of encouraging even farmers. The subsistence farmers are complaining of security threats. What is going on? How are you helping them to secure the farms?
Let's open the phone line so that we can take as much calls as possible, and I will advise our callers to try to call on time, not when we are about to wrapping up the program. The numbers you can call to be part of the discussion are 0916 104-7698, 0916-104-7698, or 0811-052-6487, 0811-052-6487, or you can call 0902-280-9257, 0902-280-9257. These are the numbers for you to call to be part of the discussion. 0916-104-7698, 0916-104-7698, or 0811-052-6487, 0811-052-6487, or 0902-280-9257. These are the numbers for you to call to be part of the discussion. We have a caller here. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, brother.
Yes, your name and where you're calling from?
Brother Badmus Joseph.
Okay.
I'm from Ghana, so I really appreciate all you have been saying for a long time now. God will be with you. You see, we are pleading to our government in your state. So please stop destroying the bushes and let the farmers settle down in their farms and produce something for your state, as you are saying. So that is my contribution. God bless you all.
Yeah, thank you very much for that contribution. Like I said, the numbers are 0916-104-7698 or 0811-052-6487 or 0902-280-9257. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Okay, I'm Ola calling from Ibadan.
Okay, go on.
Your analyst there, and you, the anchor, I don't know your background. As in the analysis, the economic analysis is very clean and clear. In fact, for long now, though we do see political analysis that are very fine in this state, but for economic analysis like this, to my own opinion, I have not listened to such for past now. So I don't know. We need to know the background of your guest there and your own. I think it should be coming from a banking side. So it means if it's coming from a banking side, it means bankers are more suitable for economic analysis. So I'm not saying. See, I have to say, I'm not hyping you people, but the analysis is very clear. With we need to know your background, please, the best, and even you know the answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. The numbers, let's see if we can still pick one or two calls. The numbers are, okay, let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, your name and where you're calling
I'm Primate Shitu calling from Ijebu-Igbo in Ogun State.
Okay, sir.
Please, you won't allow a resource person to go because we don't have any other hope than IBR. Now, he has really hinted on CBN policies and why we might be having problems. But there is an area he's omitting. And we need a kind of education from him before we go today, if likely. Now, I don't know exactly what is wrong. There is an inter-working organization of the CBN that is, to me, is as if it's abandoned or it is not touched. And that is the ABM, African Banking Market, which consists of over 5 African countries. I don't know if the nations has even increased more than 5. I will be knowing that from him. Now, the Chinese, they have their own currency. The Japanese has theirs. The Americans have theirs. What is disturbing these 5 African countries to have a kind of currency that can go into the ring with the dollar? Can't we do that? Then if we decide to do that, what is going to be the implication economically? Are we going to fall low in the ring, or we are going to defeat, or we may even challenge the dollar and have a currency that will help us out of economic crunch? I want him to really deal with this issue and tell us something about it. Because you keep seeing that the ABM just keep targeting. In 2017 to 2020, they target, and they could not meet that target, they failed. I don't know what exactly is the problem with that organization in the CBN. The second question, we keep borrowing every year. and we are not paying back. We are not even auditing what we are borrowing. We are not auditing the spending. According to Professor Fafunwa, he said the last time we audit the account of this country was in 1993. Now, if we don't audit, how on earth can we ever make the economy work? I want our guests to deal with this issue. Then the one you have said about Ogun State, if you can allow me, we have defeated Lagos State in terms of industries. Ogun State has defeated Lagos State in terms of industries. And Ogun State has come down to sit down and said, look, there is a population outburst. And if you don't start going into the building industry, we may not have enough houses to accommodate these people that is known as investors, these technocrats, and the workers that are coming into Ogun State. That is why they have so much invested into that. But I think the real person will be talking to you very soon because I've made my connections. And I will need your number because you need to talk together. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for that. Will I call it an update as regards our request concerning what is happening in Ogun State? Our time is really fast spent, so I'll just leave you to react to some of the issues our callers have raised. And again, most interestingly too, is what Prime Minister said about the African banking market. I think that's one area too, because I hardly see Africans buying from Africans.
Because a good number of them are still tied to the aprons of their colonial masters, especially any agreement that the Francophone countries are involved in. France has a way of compromising it. And it is of recent that the countries are beginning to wise up and be changing their direction from over-reliance on France to looking inward to become self-reliant and how to cooperate with their neighbors. Until they achieve that, the issue of ABS and the rest of them cannot manifest because it's more of an international politics affecting them. For instance, there's a BRICS network. Let's even leave the BRICS aside. Nigeria as a country has signed so many bilateral agreements, trade agreements with countries that we don't honor. For instance, we have a currency swap agreement with China.
Talk about that.
And 40% of our imports,
you
understand? 40% of our net imports comes from China. And the yuan to naira is around 40-something naira. You understand?
Which would have been
but
easier.
we'll not import in that yuan. We'll rather import in dollar that is above 1,000 naira, and we expect prices to come down. That is the government's fault.
Is it government's fault or the importers?
It is the government. Importers would only take advantage of the policy of the government that is available to them.
Because why I asked that question, I remember when the last administration talked about the current currency swap, a lot of Nigerians were kicked against it because they never understood the essence of that currency swap.
And people like us have educated in our own way on the advantages of this agreement. But what is keeping the government from implementing it? If you ask me, I'll say, well, it's because of the commitment to the Bretton Woods, and of course the other, when some people talked about us not paying loan, we're actually paying back some loans. But the thing is, the conditionalities of those loans is what is making it difficult to be paid, because you will be paying more of interest before you even touch the loan. Those are the conditionalities. Imagine, and China is also falling into. That's why people are no longer going for their loans again, because they are targeted at enslaving the countries.
I think our time is really fast spent, because in a simple way, and it's just a clear swap. You are importing goods from China. Instead of paying in dollars, that is quite expensive, you pay in their currency, which the exchange rate is just in 40 naira to, I think I'm trying to remember the name they call their yuan, which is not much. So we can actually get it. Remember when the Chinese phone came to Nigeria of recent? That was one of the things that crashed the price of handsets.
There are 40% of our net imports is from China, not just Chinese. What is solar, whatever that all of them come from China. You understand? Because they build specifications that are peculiar to our own, what is it called now? Environment. And we are not taking full advantage of this. That's why I said whenever the government is trying, when they are ready to do the right thing, they know. You don't sign an agreement with a motive of not honoring it. That is the fault on the part of the government, and it's not peculiar to this administration. In fact, the currency swap was signed by the Buhari administration. Yeah, as far back as 2017.
Yeah.
And they didn't go until 2019. 2023. No, I think they signed it 2021. And they did not go until 2023. So what were they waiting for 2 years? And this one came, met the thing on ground, and that's not looking at that direction. If you want to cut China off, at least take advantage of that agreement to really bring down. We are talking about inflation. Now, these are things that will curb the inflation. Yeah. If we really, because we don't have, what is it called? Local alternative to these items yet. Until we do, you can now begin to say, okay, we are not going to be reliable. Even the one that we say we are not producing enough to meet the market. It's been rationed. Cement.
I think this is where we'll call it a wrap on this segment of the program. One of the callers wanted to know your background, but I'm very sure you're not a banker.
I'm not a banker. I have background in political science and economics. That is my little background for now.
And same here, but not a banker. But I believe with experience and the current Nigeria economic situation, it is going to turn a lot of Nigerians to economists, because
once you follow government policies and develop decisions, you will be more informed. And that's what I will advise every other person to do as well. That's what has given us the level of information that we have, and the best we can do is to share it.
This is where we call it a wrap on the program Economy Today, coming your way every Monday from 9 to 10 a.m. My name remains Bright Richard.
Time well, no waka waka, no gossip gossip.